The button element has a lot of power, especially inside of a form. Not only do buttons look like great call to actions, so if you're trying to get someone to buy from you, you usually use a button or something very flashy or a large colorful link to get someone to click on that button. But typically, buttons do the trick, and you can style a button multiple different ways, and often they come with their own type of styling. In this video, we're going to look at the different types of buttons. In a form, we have input fields, we have text areas, we have drop-down menus, which select, we haven't covered those yet, and we have buttons. We're going to cover buttons right now. But before we do that, I want to add a text field with a value of Luke Skywalker, and the name is going to be name. And then we're going to create a button, and this also has a type. Now, the button type can be submit, button, and reset, but it can only be one of these. So for this particular example right now, we're going to say submit, and we're just going to say submit, and that's how we create a submit button in a form. Now, if we preview this, it says Luke Skywalker, and if I click submit, it doesn't look like anything happened, but it did actually submit the form. So if we look at the URL up here, it says name. Remember, the name was the name attribute. The value is what's going in here. And Luke Skywalker. Now, what if someone wanted to reset the form? Let's add another button, and let's call this one reset. And let's maybe even put this on a different line so we can see what we're actually doing. Refresh, so I can either submit this or I can reset it now. Now, the reset button here, when you click it, will empty every field. Going to create an example here. So we have Anakin Skywalker and Luke Skywalker. The reset button, when you click it, doesn't look like it did anything, but what it actually did was return the values to their default values. Now, we told them what the default value was. The value is Anakin Skywalker and Luke Skywalker. So if we said value 1 and value 2 and then hit the reset button, it reset those back to what they normally are. Now, if we didn't want any value in there at all, hit reset, again, nothing's going to happen. It has nothing to reset to. But if we said name 1 and name 2, hit reset, it's going to go back to nothing because there's nothing in that value. That is now the default value. Thirdly, we have just a normal button. And this one, just as the name suggests, does nothing. A button is just a regular button. Now, why would you use this? A lot of people use it in JavaScript or jQuery. Other people will style it so it doesn't look like a button. You know, there are many different uses for it. But when we're talking just about HTML and a button that does nothing, excluding CSS, JavaScript, and or jQuery, not really that valuable. But it is important to know because once you start working with JavaScript and possibly jQuery, it's going to do a lot more than what you think. Now, there's one more thing you have to know. If we get rid of the form element, we go back to our page and refresh, it doesn't look like it's any different. If we try to reset it, nothing's going to happen. The input, text area, button, and select elements, the elements that are supposed to go inside the form element, are really only useful inside that form element. And this is a prime example. This is no longer inside of a form and the reset button doesn't work. If I hit the submit button, nothing happens. That's because there's not a form to submit it. You need that form element. Now, your task for this video is to create a new document, and inside this document, I want you to create a form element. Inside this form element, add the input field with a default value. Our default value was Anakin Skywalker or Luke Skywalker. Yours can be anything. And then I want you to add a submit button below that. And beside the submit button, I want you to create a reset button. Remember, the only difference is the type. Type is equal to submit or type is equal to reset. Save and open your progress in your browser, and then change the text field that you created. Write anything else in it. So if your default value is Anakin Skywalker, change it to whatever you want. Put your first name if you like. Then hit that submit button. And when you hit that submit button, look up in your URL and notice that your address bar changed. And that will only change if you use the name attribute, like we did in our example. And lastly, refresh the page, and then I want you to change the text in your text field once more, but this time press the reset button. And notice that the default value comes back.